Have you ever felt like you don't belong to the noise of this world? As if something inside you is quietly waiting for the silence to return? Not an idea, not a fact, but a feeling, a pulse beneath thought, a whisper that grows louder only when everything else fades. Imagine a thin trail of smoke rising in stillness, soft, sacred like a hand reaching back from another time. You don't chase it, you remember it. And what if memory isn't something behind you, but something ahead waiting for you to turn inward and see? This isn't about learning something new. It's about unearthing what you've always known but were told to forget. The sacred doesn't arrive with thunder. It returns through recognition, through breath, through silence. So ask yourself not what you seek, but what you already carry, because maybe the truth isn't out there. Maybe it's been patiently waiting, just beneath your skin, ready to be remembered. They never feared the plant. They feared what the plant could show you. That line doesn't leave you, does it? It lingers like the afterglow of a memory you can't quite place. Somewhere deep inside, it stirs a truth you've sensed your entire life but couldn't articulate. Not until now. You were warned about it, told it was dangerous, told it would lead you astray. But what if those warnings weren't about harm? What if they were about control? Because it was never really about the plant. It was about your perception, your ability to see beyond the veil, to question what you were never supposed to question. You see, this plant once revered as sacred wasn't created to help you escape. It was designed to bring you back to yourself, to the silence you've forgotten how to hear, to the knowing that doesn't need proof. It was never a drug, it was a doorway. And somewhere along the way, we locked that door and threw away the key. But the key is still here. Ancient priests once crossed deserts just to commune with it. Shamans chanted over it. Monks inhaled its smoke with reverence, not for euphoria, but for elevation. They understood something we've forgotten. This wasn't something to consume, but something to converse with. It didn't speak in words, it moved in waves, through breath, through intention, through stillness. They called it the green messenger, not because it changed you, but because it reminded you of who you are, of what you already carry, and most importantly, of what you've been forced to forget. We've been taught to fear what awakens us, to mock what humbles us, to outlaw what opens the third eye, because once that eye opens, you can no longer unsee. You begin to remember that your soul was never asleep, it was waiting. For a moment like this, for a whisper, for a sign. And now, maybe you're realizing that whisper never came from outside. It was always within you, echoing quietly beneath the noise. The plant didn't create it. It simply helped you listen. What if your first experience wasn't getting high? What if it was the beginning of remembrance? A sacred hint that there's more to this world than what you were told. That stillness can be louder than any doctrine. That vision doesn't begin with the eyes. It begins with the breath. They told you to fear it, but the ones who knew really knew treated it like fire, dangerous if abused, miraculous when honored. It was a bridge between body and spirit, between the seen and the unseen. And those who truly listened didn't chase the visions, they honored the silence before them. Because in that silence, something ancient awakens. Something that doesn't need proof or permission. Something that says, you're not just someone who stumbled onto this path. You've been walking it all along. You were never just using it. You were remembering it as a key. And now that the door has begun to open, there's no going back. Because once you've remembered, you can't forget. There are moments when silence doesn't feel empty, it feels familiar. A slow breath in, a pause, a heartbeat. And then suddenly, not with words but with sensation, something rises. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't rush in. It simply is. And for the first time in a long time, you feel like you're not learning something new, you're remembering something ancient. This is sacred memory. And it doesn't live in books, theories, or sermons. It lives in the quiet spaces you've been trained to ignore. It lives in the breath you take without noticing, in the stillness you avoid when the world gets loud. It lives in the body, in the subtle knowing, in the places science still hesitates to name. People have said it for centuries without knowing why. I don't know how, but I just know. And when the ritual begins, not the one with robes or rules, but the ritual of returning inward, this knowing reawakens. Your senses shift, time stretches, and you realize something the ancient mystics tried to preserve through chants and incense. Memory doesn't always come from the mind. Sometimes, memory returns through the breath. They didn't call it remembering back then. They called it listening. To the pulse of the universe in the body, to the rhythms that predate language. And the plant, the green messenger, was not a teacher with lectures. It was a gentle guide, revealing what had been buried beneath the noise. Not in visions fabricated, but in truths long forgotten. You've probably felt it already. That moment after exhale when everything slows, and for no clear reason, you feel like you've been here before. Not in this place, but in this presence. A state that doesn't rely on explanation. It just is. And maybe that's why so many who have walked this path say the same two words without planning to: I remember. It's not nostalgia. It's not imagination. It's a subtle returning. And it's not just personal, it's collective. That's what no one told you, that your memory isn't just yours. It's part of a deeper river of remembrance moving through many. That's why when one person says, I remember, another replies, I am the temple now. These aren't affirmations. They are codes. They are echoes. A language older than speech, rising from a lineage that lives through the breath. This is why the rituals were quiet, why fasting was essential, why chants were simple and repetitive, because sacred memory is delicate. It doesn't arrive when you demand it. It unfolds when you surrender. It blooms not in urgency, but in openness. And this is the part modern minds struggle to accept. You don't remember by trying, you remember by allowing. It might feel strange at first, like emotions surfacing for no reason, like tears that don't have a story but still carry weight. Don't rush past that, because that's the language of soul memory. That's how ancient parts of you speak when given space, not with logic but with feeling, not with proof but with presence. And if it feels lonely sometimes, this path of quiet remembrance, just know, you are not alone. Every time someone whispers, I remember, the code is activated again. It circles back into the collective field, a soft ripple in the still water of consciousness, a reminder that we are not building something new. We are uncovering what was sacred all along. So the next time you sit in stillness, place your hand over your chest. Breathe slowly. Let the breath move in and out without force. Let the silence settle without judgment. And if a strange warmth stirs in your chest, if your eyes well with emotion you can't explain, just know this: you are remembering. Not because someone taught you, not because you read it, but because your soul never forgot. What if you were never drawn to the plant by curiosity, but by memory? There's a difference, subtle yet profound. Curiosity seeks the new. Memory returns to the familiar. And when you held that leaf, when the smoke curled into the air, something within you didn't just react, it recognized. You weren't using it. You were being called back. This changes everything, doesn't it? Most people are taught to see cannabis as something external, something they pick up and put down. A tool, a substance, at best a helper, at worst a distraction. But what if it was neither? What if, for the ones who feel a strange, sacred pull, those who inhale not to escape, but to listen, it isn't a tool at all? It's a key. But like any key, it only fits a specific door. And that door only opens if you're willing to remember. You see, the plant doesn't chase you. It doesn't lure. It waits. It waits for the exact moment you are still enough to hear what it's always been whispering. That moment doesn't come through effort. It comes through silence, through surrender, through the space where noise finally stops and something ancient speaks. That's why it often finds you in times of confusion or transition, when the life you've built starts to feel hollow, when the answers you were taught no longer satisfy the questions that won't stop echoing. You don't seek the divine seeks you, and it often knocks in the most unexpected ways, soft, quiet, like smoke rising in a room you thought was empty. The ones who feel called by the plant often describe a shift they can't explain. A sense of alignment, like the pieces of their inner puzzle suddenly rearrange themselves into a picture that feels right. That's not influence. That's remembering. That's a soul recognizing its compass. And yet, it's easy to doubt it, to second-guess that kind of subtle knowing. You might ask, why me? You might feel alone in your sensitivity, your awareness, your ache for something deeper. But that ache isn't weakness, it's a call. A sacred invitation back to a path you never truly left, only forgot. You are not broken, you are not late, you are on time for your remembering. Every person who feels drawn to the spiritual use of this plant carries within them an echo of purpose. Not because the plant gives it to them, but because it reveals what was dormant. It's not a high, it's a homecoming. And if you've ever felt different, seen things others miss, or heard a voice inside you that the world told you to silence, you are not lost. You are waking up. The plant didn't choose you randomly. It called to what was already stirring. It's the thread pulling you back to the tapestry you were always a part of. So the next time you doubt yourself, when the world feels too loud, when your visions feel too strange, when your inner world feels too deep, remember this. You were never chasing magic. Magic was waiting for you to slow down, to listen, to turn the key. And when that door opens, don't be afraid of what you find. You're not entering the unknown. You're returning to what your soul already knew. You were never just using it. You were being called back. The ritual doesn't begin with the first breath of smoke. It begins far earlier in the stillness before. In the moment, you place your hand over your heart and ask the question not everyone dares to ask. What do I need to see? This is where the sacred starts. In modern life, we're trained to rush, to consume. Even the spiritual gets treated like a checklist. Burn sage, light candle, inhale, exhale, move on. But a true ceremony, a real encounter with the plant as messenger, not substance, begins in an entirely different state. One of reverence, of readiness, of listening. Before any smoke, before any sensation, ask yourself, what am I bringing into this space? Because cannabis, like any sacred tool, amplifies what you carry. Your thoughts, your emotions, your fears, your hopes, they don't vanish when you inhale. They rise, they echo, they guide the shape of your experience. That's why the ancients prepared not out of superstition, but because they understood the plant responds to the spirit of the person. Set and setting. It's not just advice, it's the doorway. Stanislav Grof called it the inner healer. James Fadiman, in the Psychedelic Explorer's Guide, called it the container. Whatever you name it, the truth is this. The environment around you, the state within you, and the clarity of your intention shape what unfolds. You don't need a temple, you need presence. Begin simply. Clean the space. Sit in silence. Feel your breath settle. Put on loose, comfortable clothing. Maybe light a candle or burn a little sage, not because you must, but because it helps the body understand. Something different is happening now. This is not escape. This is encounter. Now ask, gently, not for answers, not for visions, but for truth, something like, only show me what serves my highest light. You don't need fancy words. Just sincerity. The plant listens not to your vocabulary, but your vibration. This moment, this breath before everything begins, is what turns usage into ceremony. It's where the sacred enters. Not when the smoke curls, but when the heart opens. And then wait, don't rush, don't chase. Let the plant come to you. It's not a button to press, it's a presence to receive. Think of it like tuning an instrument. You're adjusting your frequency, your breath, your energy, your attention so the experience ahead can unfold in harmony. Loud music, distractions, chaotic thoughts, they distort the signal. Silence, intention, grounded stillness, they make you a clear vessel. This is what set and setting really means. It's not about being perfect. It's about being prepared. You are the space. You are the altar. You are the invitation. And when you treat yourself as such, the ritual begins long before any leaf is burned. So the next time you feel the call, resist the urge to rush. Instead, pause, clean your energy. Ask what needs to be seen. Whisper your intention into the quiet. And then, let the ceremony begin, not with the smoke, but with your surrender. Because the plant doesn't respond to urgency, it responds to truth, and truth always speaks first in silence. It starts small, a shift in the air, a tension in your chest. The light you expected begins to dim, and something in the stillness whispers your name not with comfort, but with gravity. This is the moment many fear. The moment when the sacred plant, once soft and inviting, becomes a mirror. And what you see staring back is not golden light or angelic clarity, but shadow. But here's the truth no one told you. The darkness is not a mistake. We've been trained to believe that if something feels scary, it must be wrong. That fear is a sign to escape. But in many spiritual traditions, fear is not a warning, it's an invitation, an initiation. The Christian mystics called it the dark night of the soul, a necessary unraveling of all illusions. In Tibetan practice, it's churd, the ritual of calling your deepest fears to the table and offering them tea. And in modern psychology, Bessel van der Kolk writes in The Body keeps the score that traumatic memory isn't just stored, it waits, silently, until it finds a moment safe enough to surface. That moment might be now. Cannabis doesn't create the darkness. It removes the distractions that kept you from seeing it. And when the noise fades, what remains is what's been there all along, unspoken, unresolved, unheld. So if you find yourself trembling, if a vision turns wild or a feeling swells beyond control, remember, this isn't punishment. This is a passage. The plant isn't pushing you into fear. It's pulling you toward freedom. But freedom doesn't always wear white robes and sing soft songs. Sometimes it shows up with a cracked voice and trembling hands. It shows up as the thing you never wanted to face, finally asking to be seen. This is why the ancients always prepared with protection, not out of paranoia, but out of respect. In Mexico, Huichol shamans kept salt nearby to ground the nervous system. Hawaiian kahunas stood barefoot on the earth, visualizing roots connecting them to the deep stillness below. In temples across cultures, Simple mantras became anchors, steadying the breath when storms rose inside. You can do the same. A bowl of salt, a few deep breaths with bare feet on cool ground, a whispered phrase like, "Only show me what I'm ready to heal." These are not superstitions. They are invitations, reminders that even in fear, you are not alone. You are held, and most importantly, you are ready. Because healing doesn't come from avoiding darkness. It comes from walking through it with open eyes and a steady heart. And yes, it might be hard. Yes, it might bring tears. But those who stay, who breathe, who soften instead of run, often speak of transformation that goes deeper than anything they've known. Not because the plant changed them, but because the plant revealed what was ready to change. So the next time fear rises, don't resist. Don't panic. Place your hand over your heart and ask, "What are you trying to show me?" Then wait and ask again, "Now show me the light." Because behind every trembling shadow, there's a sacred key. And only those who stay long enough in the dark ever find it. They think they see the plant, but really they're seeing themselves. Because the plant isn't a storyteller. It doesn't come with an agenda or a voice that insists. It doesn't pull you toward light or cast you into shadow. What it does is reflect. And what it reflects depends entirely on what you bring to the space. Imagine a mirror that not only shows your face, but your breath, your memories, your doubt, your longing. That's what the sacred plant is. It isn't here to teach you something new, it's here to reveal what you already carry. You don't meet the plant. You meet yourself in the presence of the plant. And this is where everything changes. The mood you carry, the stories you tell yourself, the fears you ignore, the intention you whisper before the flame, all of it becomes the shape of the experience. If you enter with reverence, the space blooms with gentleness. If you arrive in chaos, the journey reflects that fragmentation. Not as a punishment, but as clarity, because energy doesn't lie. In ancient traditions, this was known not as a drug, but as a being, one without a personality, but with a frequency. It vibrates like a tuning fork, and whatever is inside you begins to resonate with it. Not always comfortably, but always honestly. So ask yourself, what am I bringing into this ceremony? A question, a hunger, a hidden ache. You don't have to purify every thought, but you do need to become aware. Because the plant won't sort your truth from your noise, it will amplify both. And the louder you are inside, the harder it is to hear what actually matters. This is why the elders didn't just light the herb and inhale. They prepared the space. They prepared the self. They stepped into stillness, cleared the field, softened the ego. They approached with song, with prayer, with humility, not because the plant demanded it, but because they knew the plant would echo back whatever vibration they offered. The ceremony, then, begins not with smoke but with sincerity. When you treat the plant like a party trick, you receive disorientation. When you treat it as a portal, you receive perspective. It's not about belief, it's about alignment. What music are you playing inside your mind? What words are spinning beneath your silence? When you sit with the sacred plant, these become visible, loud, alive. You are not being judged. You are being witnessed by your own awareness, held up to the light of something ancient and still. So the next time you prepare to meet the green messenger, pause, place your hand on your chest. Breathe, ask quietly, what do I carry right now? Not to fix, not to perfect, but to acknowledge. Because in the realm of sacred frequencies, what you carry becomes what you see. And in that reflection, healing begins. There comes a quiet after the ceremony. A stillness so complete it almost feels like something is missing. The plant, once vibrant, once speaking, no longer whispers. The visions fade. The sense of guidance softens. And for a moment, you wonder, has the magic left? But it hasn't. The magic has moved from the herb. To you, this silence isn't the end. It's the threshold of something deeper, your own inner knowing awakening. The teacher steps back not when the lesson is incomplete, but when the student is ready to walk alone. You were never meant to need the plant forever. You were meant to become what it showed you was possible. And now, you are. You are the sacred space, the temple where spirit dwells, the altar where breath becomes prayer. You don't need smoke to feel clarity. You don't need ritual to touch the divine. The path was never external, it was always spiraling inward. This is the mystery many miss. When the plant quiets, it's not rejection, it's recognition. It's the moment when the outer tool bows to the inner master. You have remembered enough to begin walking without crutches. And that is freedom. This is where integration begins. The insights aren't gone there rippling beneath your daily life. In the way you pause before speaking, in the stillness between your thoughts, in the light that now moves through your hands when you touch another. You're not seeking anymore, you're becoming. Yes, you may miss the intensity, the surreal beauty of those altered states. But what if the true power is learning to see the sacred without enhancement, to feel the mystery in a sunrise, to hear the guidance in silence, to recognize the divine in a stranger's eyes? This is not less than the vision, it's the fulfillment of it. So honor the plant, but don't chase it. Thank it for what it showed you, and then thank yourself for being willing to see, to listen, to change. Let the space it opened in you remain open. Let the breath it deepened stay deep. Let the stillness become your new home. Because now, you carry the altar within. And when someone asks you, do you still work with the plant? You'll smile not because you've left it behind, but because it's no longer something you do. It's something you are. You are the temple now. You were taught to associate sacred space with scent, the curling smoke, the warmth of the leaf, the hush that falls when it enters your lungs. But what if I told you the ritual doesn't begin with the plant? And it doesn't have to end with it either. What if the doorway to the divine never required smoke to open? There's a quiet freedom that arises when you realize this. Not rejection, not disconnection, but expansion. Like realizing the sky above you is not limited to the shape of the incense rising. The breath, the chant, the light in your room, all of it holds the same potential. All of it can open the same door. You can light a candle and let the flame reflect your intention. You can sip cacao and feel your heart widen with each swallow. You can sit in silence, your palms open, your breath steady, and still feel the ancient rhythm move through you. The plant was never the source, it was a mirror. The real temple was always your attention, your willingness, your presence. This is the deeper mystery of ritual. It's not tied to any one element. It lives in how you enter a moment. It breathes through how you choose to be with yourself fully. Even a single conscious breath can be ceremony, a walk under moonlight, a whispered word before sleep, the way you steep tea with both hands as if holding sacred water. It's not about what you use, it's about how you arrive. And this is the gift many overlook in their longing for something external. The spiritual path isn't about chasing highs, it's about deepening your roots. When you no longer need the leaf to feel connected, you haven't lost the magic. You've embodied it. Across cultures and centuries, wise ones have understood this. Monks humming a single note in Himalayan caves, desert mystics bowing under the stars, island grandmothers placing flower petals in water, not to impress the divine, but to remember it. None of them needed smoke to reach spirit. They only needed stillness, sincerity, and the courage to meet themselves. So now, what calls you? Maybe it's humming 3 tones before bed. Maybe it's pouring cacao and whispering a prayer to the trees that grew it. Maybe it's placing your hand on your chest and simply saying, "I'm here." This is not about abandoning the plant. It's about letting the essence of ritual move through every part of your life, turning cooking into prayer, turning conversation into reflection, turning your home into sacred ground not because of what's burned, but because of how you choose to show up in it. You are not alone in this. All around the world, others are quietly doing the same, creating new rituals from old roots, blending ancient reverence with modern intuition. And together, without even realizing it, we are weaving a new collective, remembering one that doesn't depend on the leaf, but still honors its spirit. So if today you light no herb, breathe no smoke, that's okay. Take a deep breath anyway, light a candle, place a flower, sing a note. Let yourself feel how even now, especially now, the doorway is already open. And this time, you didn't need the leaf to find it. You just needed you. You are not alone, and you were never wrong. If your heart has ever stirred without reason, if something ancient has ever echoed through a breath, a silence, a moment of stillness that wasn't madness, it was memory. You weren't being pulled away from reality. You were being returned to it. This path isn't always clear. It doesn't come with maps. But every time you listen inward, every time you honor what feels true, you take one step further into who you already are. So if you're here, still wondering, still feeling, still breathing, it's not by chance. You are remembering, and that's sacred. Somewhere inside you, a small light has never gone out. It flickers now gently behind your ribs, a quiet warmth, a steady breath. And as you exhale, you know the truth not because someone told you, but because you feel it. I am the temple now.